We're not going to have more and more and more right now. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll do some testing. This is an audio test for the January 6th, 2021 Board of Education meeting. This is a test for our audio settings. The meeting will begin at 7:00 p.m. This is an audio test. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. This is an audio test and a whiny test. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. What? All right, thank you.
Hey, Holly, nobody's talking, right?
No, I was just waiting.
Okay. I felt like my mom for a minute, like I couldn't figure out how to use the technology. All right, great.
I was just about to say something. I was just counting. I was counting heads to make sure everybody was here.
Actually, we just signed you up for 4 committees while you weren't here. So congratulations.
Excellent.
If we could reconvene our meeting to open session, the board has been in executive session since 6 o'clock to discuss a confidential employee matter and to complete some tenure candidate reviews. If we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll just try to introduce everybody who's on the call. If you want to wave from the board, we have Willow Bear, Wendy Sampson, Chris Meyer, Christine Beck, Jonathan Fishbein, Meredith Moriarty, and myself, Holly Dellenbaugh. And from the administration, we have Jody Monroe, Dave Hurst, Judy Kehoe, and Kathy Johnston. First on the agenda is our approval of minutes. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the December 16th, 2020 regular board meeting.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. Next item, meeting reports, our superintendent's report.
Sure. Thank you. So I had a couple updates regarding our COVID testing and planning. So over the break, we sent out information to families about testing in our schools, which we had shared information. You know, the governor had indicated different cluster zones, orange, red, and within those zones, schools would be required to do a certain percentage of testing. And that's changed a little bit over time. So we're not really sure exactly where that is, but it does look that we will be doing some type of testing in our schools. So we sent a video out, information, and I wanted to thank all of the families who responded very quickly and gave their consent to have students tested. I also want to clarify that we're not planning on testing all of our students and all of our staff. We don't have that kind of testing capacity. We would be looking to do a percentage of testing ongoing, until we start to see numbers go down. So we have not begun testing yet. If parents have not, I know there were a lot of questions for some of our school nurses about what does this look like. We are planning for elementary for students to do that drive-through model, which is what was included in the video. It would be at our bus garage and we would do sign-ups in advance. We don't have an established date yet, but once we do, we'll get that out there for families. So we'll provide updates. I am looking to probably offer a couple of parent meetings in the next week or 2 weeks to not only address any testing questions people have, but also to address just kind of, how things are at the mid-year point. It's hard to believe we're, soon going to be at the halfway point in the school year. And again, answer questions. So I'll get that information out as well. Also earlier today, prior to this meeting, we did receive information from Albany County Department of Health recommending to schools that effective immediately that schools should be excluding siblings of any symptomatic students from attending in-person classes pending COVID-19 results. So if a child is showing symptoms and they've recently had a COVID test and they have siblings either in the same school or other schools, the recommendation that those siblings remain out of school as well until the results of the test are back. So again, we'll be putting that information out to families probably tomorrow.
Jody, can I just ask a quick question about that?
Sure.
Does that also include other family members like parents?
So we have been including that in our information, and what we would ask, because we did see a lot of this prior to the holiday break, that if anyone in the immediate family is displaying symptoms and is awaiting a COVID test result, to please have children stay out of school for, it's, generally a day or two. But we saw a lot of positive cases pop up and a lot of quarantining as a result of that. So in our messaging, we will be asking if there's any immediate family members, who you reside with, that are symptomatic and awaiting a COVID test result, to please stay home for those days. Okay. I also wanted to give an update. We had request earlier this fall for the Hall of Fame committee to review Megyn Kelly and her appropriateness in our Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame committee did meet in December. They wanted to reach out to Ms. Kelly to do some follow-up questions. And I believe right before the break, she did respond to them. And the Hall of Fame committee will be meeting in the next week or so to review all of that information. So no decision has been made yet. I know we had received an email questioning that time frame. So that's the status of that. And finally, we also mentioned earlier this fall that we would be planning on doing some diversity work, continuing our work with Harriet Grosvenor, who we have been working with for last year and through this year on these initiatives. So I want to ask Dave Hurst to just provide an update on where that stands in regards to parent workshops and student workshops that will be getting going for the spring semester. So Dave, you want to talk about that, please?
Sure, thank you. So we'll be sending out information later this week. If you recall back, sort of between, I guess around the Thanksgiving time, we sent out a survey trying to gauge interest in both parent and student / alumni forums. And we received quite a bit of interest. So we're going to be running two sort of sessions. We're going to do a winter training that will last throughout January and March, and then a spring training that will last throughout March and May. For the winter training, we'll have two parent cohorts. They'll be running February 1st, February 22nd, March 8th, and March 22nd. And we will be asking families to commit to all four of those dates. One cohort will run from 4 to 5:30, and then a second cohort from 7 to 8:30. So two cohorts at two different time frames where we can have up to 30 participants within each cohort. At the same time, we'll be running a student cohort, and the student cohort will run on January 26th, February 9th, March 2nd, and March 16th, and that will be running from 7 to 8:30. And then we'll essentially be repeating the same process in the spring. So we'll have the two parent cohorts, sort of one early, one later in the evening, April 12th, April 26th, May 10, May 24, and then a student one that will run during a later time slot from 7 to 8:30 on March 30th, April 20th, May 4th, and May 18th. So later this week, more information will be going out with details on how to sign up for those. So again, we have the capacity. We're running 4 parent cohorts, so we can get up to 120 parents involved in that, and then 2 student alumni ones where we could get 60. So that's more than enough based on our initial survey that we did. So hopefully we'll still have some room for additional folks to join us. But again, more information will be going out later this week on that.
Thanks, Dave. That's everything I had for my superintendent's report this evening, so thank you.
Hey, Jody, how's the auditorium at the high school? Is it done yet?
Not 100%. They're still doing some punch list work and doing some final, pieces with some of the technology. But yes, it's coming along, and at some point we'll be able to use it. But it looks fabulous. So.
Does anyone have any questions for Jody? Next up is our board report. I don't have much. I wanted to obviously wish everybody a happy new year. I wanted to also commend our teachers and administration who were working on the remote school plans for this year, because I feel like this past week has gone pretty well for K through, obviously 7 through 12 has been their sort of pros at this point, but for the elementary school, it seems to be going pretty well, at least from what I can see. So thank you to everybody who has been working on that. Does anybody have anything else they would like to share? Meredith?
I would just like to join you in that, Holly, and thanking everyone who's been involved with the planning of remote learning and the implementation. I was very skeptical that this was going to work for our youngest learners. And from everything I've heard from my friends and what I've witnessed, it really has gone very well. Of course, there's always going to be hiccups, but how those hiccups have been dealt with have been, it's gone really well. And I also wanted to thank the teachers for preparing the children to deal with all this. I mean, I am so impressed with what our youngest learners can do in terms of getting on independently, doing their work independently. They've been taught how to do all this, and I really appreciate that. And that was, one of the great things that we could plan ahead for this. But I just wanted to thank everyone because I was very skeptical, and I think it's gone really well.
Anybody have anything else? Chris?
Yeah, just all the parents out there who have little ones just like me, thank you for being so understanding and resourceful this week, because I know it's tough. My wife and I have been trying to rearrange things so we have coverage for our kids, and it is tough. But I just want to say openly, I want to thank Jody for her decision to put schools remote for this week. It was not an easy choice, but it was the right choice. When you have Dr. Whalen coming out and saying, I didn't tell superintendents that it was safe to open schools. I didn't tell them it wasn't safe, but I didn't tell them it was safe. I think that combined with the 10% positivity rate, combined with what Dan McCoy said, this was a tough choice, but I really think it was the right choice, because I always want to consistently err on the side of children's safety. And I really feel that we did. So thank you, Jody.
Any other comments? Next up is our recognition of public comment. We did receive a few comments that came in, and as usual, all the comments will be attached to the minutes of the meeting for anybody to see. The first comment that came in was from Jude Klein with respect to testing and information about COVID-19 testing, which Jody, I think you addressed during your superintendent's report. We had two comments that came in with respect to electric school buses. One from Kate Murray, who writes, Governor Cuomo recently announced that an extra $2.5 million is available to fund up to 100% of the cost of all electric school buses. Electric school buses are much better. There's no diesel pollution, which is unhealthy, particularly for growing children, and particularly at the higher concentrations found inside school buses. Electric school buses with their zero carbon dioxide emissions will contribute to the solution of the climate crisis, and expressing her favor to switch to electric school buses, and stating that if necessary, she would even pay a bit more in school taxes to make it happen. And that the school should look into the newly available funding. We also received a comment in support of electric school buses from Carol Namor, who acknowledges that it may seem strange to be writing in support of school buses during a lockdown when buildings are empty and streets are quiet. But we all look forward to the day when school buses are running and children are back in school. And when that day comes, she hopes to see an electric school bus join the fleet. She notes that the town government has taken the first steps on the road to vehicle electrification and has installed several publicly available charging stations, purchased its first electric vehicle municipal car, and aims to transition its entire fleet to electric vehicles over several years. And she encourages the Bethlehem School District to consider electrifying its school bus fleet because the benefits to children are even more striking. And she provides some information about the negative effects of diesel-powered buses and advocates for electric vehicles as less expensive to maintain and operate than gas or diesel-powered vehicles, and that they are that at least cars are comparably priced to gas-powered cars, and trucks and buses are but a few years behind on price parity, and that the recognizes that the town and school district may be eligible for many types of grants to make those purchases affordable. Judy, I know we were last year pre-COVID, we had started some discussions about electric school buses and looking into the benefits of them and availability. And I don't know if that's something that our new transportation director has on his in his pot of things to look at.
Yes, I had spoken with Mr. Johnson about that to bring him up to speed with the work that we've been doing. Really, over the last year, we've partnered up with David Burtis and Joe Murray, who have been really helpful with sharing information with the district. We, of course, were aware of the recently announced funding. We went along with David and Joe and some of the citizens from Bethlehem Tomorrow up to Green Island to look at the Lions bus facility, and we got to see the electric buses. And so we continue gathering that information, and we don't know how much of that funding would be coming to the district. It's not just the funding for the buses, it's the funding for the infrastructure. But we are continuing to explore that to see if it's feasible and what is the best way to get there once we've made that decision that it makes sense to go there. So under review, not as quickly as we would like with all things COVID, but we are trying to put that recommendation together as part of what we're reviewing for the transportation section of the budget.
Great, thanks for that update, Judy. And then the last comment came into us from Kelly Jeffers, who has a comment with respect to student mental health concerns. Her question deals with how the district is monitoring our students' mental health, especially as it relates to the number of hours students, particularly in high school, are sitting in front of a screen each day while remote learning, and the toll that not being able to interact with classmates and teachers in person is having. And she asks if the district has considered making any adjustments to the current schedule. For example, if an all remote learning model is extended, would it be possible to make Wednesday a day that kids could use to make up work, conference with teachers for extra help, or meet with counselors for additional support to break up the week? And it might go a long way to helping our children get through this very unusual year. And she says that she would be interested in hearing about any additional plans the district has to address mental health concerns for our students. And I would just add, I think, Jody, because of her comment and other comments that I have heard about mental health concerns with the students, I do think the idea of doing mid-year parent meetings to check in with our parents is a great idea, to get feedback about how everything is going and see if we do need to tweak things. And I don't know if you have any additional comments.
Sure. So we are, at the mid-year check-in. Certainly that's a time for us to hear any concerns parents have. I know that, we've talked about mental health, and the counselors are monitoring students. They are working with students. Even when students are remote, they're meeting with students regularly. We also talked about doing some kind of, I'm not sure, I'm going to say a survey, but getting some feedback from students, not only about any struggles they're having with social or emotional issues, but also with academic issues. We talked about doing that in January or early February to gather some of that information as well. But, in speaking with Kristen Connors, our counseling supervisor, she does feel that the counselors and social workers are reaching out to a lot of families. They're not just having conversations with kids, but also families who are concerned about how things are going as well. And we're tracking that information. All of our schools, also they have committees to review any students who are really struggling. So she feels that we are, generally meeting the needs, obviously as best we can, given the, remote environment, particularly with our high school students that they've been in, fairly regularly. But certainly that's an area we continue to look at.
Great, thank you. Next on our agenda, item 5, action items. A, finance action items. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following finance action item 1.
So
moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. B, professional personnel action items. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following professional personnel action items 1 through 14.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? And I'll just note, I know there's a number of retirements that are on our agenda tonight, both under this item and under our support personnel action items. And I would just thank all of those individuals for their service to the district. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. C, support personnel action items. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following support staff action items 1 through 13.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. D, other action items. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following action items 1 and 2.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That carries. Item
Holly, if I could just interrupt for a second, I do have a question for Jody about these resignations. Are these resignations, retirements, are they greater, do you think, than in past years? Because I'm wondering if people are leaving because of the COVID situation. And then the next question is, to what extent is this going to create more difficulty finding replacements? And does that mean we should start looking earlier if that's realistic? I don't know.
Sure. So we had this isn't the number we have retiring is not larger than we had several years ago, where there were a few years where we had 20 some people at 25 a couple years retiring, just because we had a bubble of people. I have heard from 1 or 2 people that were uncertain if they were going to retire, but because of COVID have decided that they are going to retire. So I think that was a decision maker for them. But in general, a lot of the individuals who are retiring were planning to do so. But I mean, if you've read anything in the news recently, and I think, I don't know if it was school boards put something out, there is a large number of teachers retiring this year across the state. And, you know, the concern, and we've talked about this before, is the number of people going into teacher education programs. We've been fortunate that we've been able to find very good quality people. And I know other districts have struggled with that. So we will start our process because we have a larger number this year. We will start our interviewing and hiring process a bit earlier than we've typically done, and seeing if that helps us with making sure that we're getting quality candidates.
Because there's also a problem with getting students placed for student teaching right now. I'm assuming that we don't have anybody. Do we have anybody student teaching this year?
We do. In fact, we actually, when we were planning for reopening and we were thinking about student teachers, we actually thought that it would be to our advantage to get some student teachers in. And it has proven helpful when we've had teachers who need to be out or teachers on quarantine. Sometimes the student teachers have actually been able to step in and continue the classes. So we do have student teachers in the district.
I'm glad that we continue to do that, especially in light of probably what will be a shortage shortly.
Yep.
Next item is item 6, future meetings and events. There is a policy committee meeting scheduled for 6 o'clock on Monday, January 11th, which will be held virtually. Our next board meeting is on Wednesday, January 20th at 7 o'clock. And we're anticipating an executive session at 6. And again, that will be a virtual meeting. And the meeting after that is on Wednesday, February 3rd at 7 o'clock, anticipating executive session at 6. And I would assume that that will also be a virtual meeting. Seeing no need to go back into executive session, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.